Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronia, and in today's video it's of course another budget update. So what we're going to be doing is tracking our expenses for the month of May. So I want to see how we actually did when it comes to our budget, and then we're also going to be walking through our budget update for the month of June. So just talking through how we've budgeted and allocated our money for next month. Now we are of course going to be using a budget template that I made. So if you are interested in getting the same budget template, especially if you haven't budgeted before, this is something you can get. With it, it does include a net worth statement, a sinking funds calculator, and then you have the choice between a monthly budget template or a weekly budget template depending on how you get paid. So make sure you do check that out if you haven't already. I'll leave a link in the description below for you. But without further ado, let's get started. So for the month of May, as many of you will know, there's not usually a change when it comes to, our savings and investments, our essential bills, or our sinking funds. So everything pretty much got paid out. And if you do want to understand in detail how we actually allocated our budget for the month of May, I do have that video on my channel, so you can check it out. I'll link it up here for you and in the description below. But let's just head over to the spending category, because that is where we essentially track our expenses. So when it comes to spending, the first one is petrol. So originally we did budget £120 for petrol, and this month we did not spend a lot on petrol, which was great. And you will see that because we didn't spend that much on petrol, we decided to spend all of that money on something else. So when it comes to petrol, we budgeted 120, but we only ended up spending £62 instead. And that pretty much means that we only needed to top up once for the month. Usually we will top up twice, but for some reason, maybe we weren't driving that much, we only needed to top up once. And so we kind of realized this within the third week of the month. So we had an idea that we probably wouldn't need to top up again, which meant that we could then spend that money on something else. So let's walk through, what else we ended up spending the money on. So next up is groceries. Now with groceries, we did have an original budget of £152, and so we were aiming to spend probably around £38, give or take, every week, and we did go slightly over. I will say that when it comes to Aldi, we typically don't tend to overspend, but if there are some things that we can't get in Aldi, for example, if it's just not in stock, we then end up having to go to Tesco, and I do find that Tesco is a bit more expensive. So when I was looking through, how much we were spending, I think it would have been about 38 a week if we just stuck to Aldi, but because we had to go Tesco, that kind of bumped it up a little bit. So in terms of how much we ended up spending, that came to £162. So it's not a crazy amount over. I mean, on average, it does mean we were spending about £40.50 each week, which is just a couple of pounds more than we were planning to. And during that month, it was also Yinka's birthday, so we were eating a bit more than usual. So I'm not too surprised at that. But yeah, 162 is how much we ended up spending on groceries. Then next up, let's talk about toiletries. So originally we did have a budget for 35, but when it came to toiletries, we ended up spending £31 instead of £35. And so we had about £4 left over. We actually used to budget about £30, but I was wondering whether, those prices could also increase. It turns out we're spending around the same amount as before. So I think for the next budget, we'll probably just keep it to 30 again. Then when it comes to our own individual spending, so if you're new to my channel and you don't know, we actually join our finances, but we do have individual accounts when it comes to our spending. And I have no idea how much Yinka ended up spending, but for me personally, I pretty much spent the full £100. Some of it was to do with traveling, some of it was to actually eat out at a restaurant, and also some of it was to also buy a gift. So that was pretty much all done. And then next up, when we come to date night, this is where it also gets interesting, because we definitely spent a lot more, and part of the reason is because we saw that we weren't going to spend much when it comes to petrol, so we decided to use that money for date night. And especially because it was Yinka's birthday during that month, we decided why not. So we did go out quite a few times that month, and we did get a few takeaways, I'm not gonna lie. But yes, as you can see, when it came to date night, we did originally have a budget for £80, but instead we ended up spending £121. So just over £40 over. Typically we tend to keep to budget when it comes to our date night, but you know, we saw there was spare money, and of course it was Yinka's birthday, so it was a great excuse. But yeah, originally £80 to £121 for date night. Then next up, when it comes to personal care, we originally had a budget for £44, but we did end up spending less when it came to personal care actually, so we only ended up spending £24 instead. So about £20 less, which again meant that we had some spare cash. And then next up, when it came to miscellaneous, so we originally had a budget for £10, but we went slightly over that, so we did end up spending about £38. And then when it came to my gym membership, that's £21.99, so that was all paid off. And of course, any spare change we had, we added that into our pennies jar. And so you can see that even though there were many different changes, like we overspent on groceries, we overspent on date night and miscellaneous, you can see that we still actually had some money left over by the end of the month. And so that's why it's always great to just learn how to adapt with your budget. It's not always going to be perfect, but I think the fact that we were able to still stick to our budget regardless is obviously a good thing. So next up, let's move over to our budget for the month of June. So this is really sharing through how we're allocating our budget, and there's actually quite a few changes, especially when it comes to our income, savings, essential bills, sinking funds, and spending as well. So let's just have a quick look and see what is happening. So when it comes to our total income, some of you may know that I have actually started doing a contract temporary role, and so I have started to get paid for that, which is great. And then of course we do have Yinka's salary as well. Everything that I earn from maybe YouTube or coaching or anything like that, I've decided to still just keep it in the business and not spend any money there, because I now have this contract role. So I'm just going to be building up and paying for my business expenses, which is great. And then in terms of our income, we also have our sinking funds. So we have £200 coming out of our sinking funds pot, and we're going to be able to allocate that. And then also using our pennies jar, because it's actually grown now, we took about £35 out of there, and you'll see why we ended up taking some money out of the pennies jar later on in the video. But for those of you who don't know, when I'm talking about a pennies jar, what I'm basically saying is whenever we have any loose change left over, we basically collect it in a little pot in our account, and so hopefully that will start to grow over time, which means we're able to just take it out and just spend it on whatever we want, which is great. So that is pretty much all our total income. Let's now move over to the other categories. So in terms of our savings and investments, we have now started saving again, which is really exciting. The first half of the year was heavily more invested in my business and also Yinka's stocks and shares ISA. We've now had to tip that over because we're starting to save for things like a property again, and so that's what we're going to be focusing on for the next 6 months. So 150 has now been put towards our savings. Next up is our essential bills. So in terms of our rent, we are now paying 1,100, and I think I updated you guys in the last video where our rent has just slightly increased by £50. So that's what we're going to be paying going forwards. Our water bill is £47.75. Our electricity and gas has now gone up as well. So before in May we were paying about £62.86. Now we're going to be paying £106.84. So that's over £40 that we're going to be paying. Honestly, I wasn't surprised because energy bills have gone up. Then when it comes to council tax, we are paying £129 a month. With broadband, we are paying £32.01. iCloud is £1.58, and then we also have our 2 SIM contracts. So for Yinka it's £12 a month, for me it's £10 a month, and we use Voxy in case you're interested. So it comes with all of this and the social media data as well as calls and texts and things like that. So make sure you do check out Voxy if you are looking for a SIM contract deal. I'll leave a link in the description below for you. And then lastly, our tithes, charity and giving was also paid out. So again, that's something that's very important to us, and it's something that we will continue to do every single month. So next up, let's talk about sinking funds. And if you're not sure what sinking funds are, they're basically just expenses that you will maybe save up for over time. So as an example, when we look at our sinking funds, the first one we have is car maintenance. So that could include insurance, road coverage, MOT, if we need to change tires, wipers, or anything like that, or even if we need to fix the car, we have a pot just for that. So this month we are actually putting £150 into our car maintenance pot. Then we also have another £10 going to the dentist, so that will be when we next have our dentist appointment, which I think is later on in the summer. And then we also have another £10 going towards Yinka's rugby, which is great, and then another £20 going towards any presents. So if we do have any family birthdays or events or anything like that, we've got money set aside for presents. And then another £10 will be going towards clothes. So if there's any time that maybe someone wants to buy something, we already have a pot for that set aside. And then the last one is a holiday. So we're actually putting £400 towards our holiday. And so if you did watch my video where I was talking about, you know, me taking time off work, what that meant, I basically mentioned that we're now saving up for a holiday because I had not been away for 4 years, mainly because the first year and a half I was trying to pay off my debt. Then by the time I did pay off my debt, we had a pandemic, so I couldn't travel anywhere. So we've made sure that we are going to be traveling this year, and so £400 has been set aside for that as well. And then let's just quickly run through our spending, because we are spending a bit more compared to last month. So when it comes to petrol, again, have a budget for £120. I think we probably will use it this month, so that hasn't changed. Then when it comes to groceries, we still have budgeted about £152, so hopefully we can stick to that £38 a week. It may just go slightly over to £40, but I want to see, and if it does go over, we probably will then change it for next month. But £152 is what we have budgeted. Then with toiletries, as I mentioned before, we've decided to stick with £30 this month, so I want to see if that makes a difference. So £30 is budgeted. Then for our spending, again, very similar, we have allocated £100 each towards our spending, which is great. Then next up, we do have a slight change when it comes to our date night, because it is also our 1 year anniversary of being married. So we have decided to set aside a bit more money because, you know, we want to celebrate our anniversary. So we have actually allocated £120, and so that's going to consist of, you know, us going out for our anniversary and also having other date nights during the month, or even any takeaways, because we do count takeaways into our date night budget as well. We just count it all as one. And then next up, we have personal care, so another £44 will be going towards personal care. And when it comes to our gym membership, previously we were only paying for myself because Yinka actually had a year-long membership that has now ended, and so he's going to be changing to a monthly membership as well, and so it means it's going to be £21.99 for the both of us. So that means that £43.98 is going to be going towards our gym membership, so that's another additional cost we need to add and allocate into our budget going forwards, but that's okay. Health is wealth, as I like to say. The other thing is definitely discretionary and it's not needed, but I am currently obsessed with it, and that is Disney Plus. I don't normally pay for things like subscriptions. I haven't done it in a long time, but you know, I'm a fan of Disney Plus, so $7.99 is going to be going towards Disney Plus for each month, which is okay. Now, if you feel like you would love to be able to stick to your budget where you can not only save your money but also spend your money at the same time, then definitely check out my one-on-one coaching, because that's essentially what I can help you do. I've helped a lot of clients be able to not only save for their financial goals, but they've also been able to spend their money how they like without feeling any forms of guilt whatsoever. So make sure you do check that out if you haven't already. You can book a free interest call with me. I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. And then miscellaneous, we've set about £5 for anything that may come up that we haven't really budgeted for, so that's all set aside. And then we did have some spare change, which we then of course added to our pennies jar, so that came to £1.03. So you can see that when it comes to our total spending, it's about £724, which I think is probably the highest that we've ever spent, probably within this whole year, which is very interesting. But yeah, I'm very excited to see how we end up doing for the month of June. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, have you set your budget for the month of June yet? I do post every Tuesday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.